We want to introduce our next panelist. She is with the Portneuf Valley Interfaith Fellowship. Jennifer Seaich has our next question. Jennifer.
Thank you, Todd and candidates. It has been stated that the non-discrimination ordinance was a very divisive thing for our community. Is there anything that you would have done differently to help it be less divisive? And since it could be revisited, how would you vote should it come up again?
The 90 seconds in responding, we start with Mr. Chase, then we go to Mr. Blad, Mr. Carta, and then Mr. Shepherd.
You know, the great debate we had this last year was over the non-discrimination ordinance. I would support the ordinance today. I supported the ordinance back then. In fact, when I was mayor of Pocatello, we changed city personnel rules to make sure that we didn't discriminate against people. It was a unanimous vote by our council. What would I do different? I'd have made sure where my council is. The division that we had was something that the mayor needs to make sure that you don't have those divisions. Have that debate, but make sure you count your votes. I can tell you, as I went out and worked regionally, because I do work regionally in the area as a consultant, that was an issue that people asked, what in the world was Pocatello doing with that? So I think part of leadership is making sure that you know what your council wants to do. Part of leadership is making sure that when your advisory board brings that issue to you, if you're going to support it, make sure you support it and get it through. Now, I take my hat off to Mayor Blad because at the end of the day, the ordinance was passed. I take my hat off to Steve Brown, Roger Bray, even I, and Gary Moore. Those are the four people that passed that ordinance. I'll be interested to see how the mayor would vote on that in the future. One other thing that I'd respond to that about what we do as leadership in the town, I believe in regional cooperation and development. I guess the mayor is trying to indicate that because I did work for Bingham Hospital, that's a bad thing. I'm a guy that believes that anything that's good for Blackfoot is good for Pocatello, and what's good for Pocatello is good for Blackfoot, and what's good for Southeast Idaho is generally good for Pocatello. I'll always work to do regional things. Portneuf Medical Center is one of the great hospitals in our state. They also do work in Blackfoot, just as Bingham does work in Pocatello. That's part of regional development.
Thank you very much. Mr. Blad?
You know, it's not a surprise that the anti-discrimination ordinance came up again. That's something that's going to be pounded on the rest of throughout this debate, I'm sure, and we'll move forward with it. I would do what I did in the past. I have never asked the council to vote in one way or another. I've always asked them to know exactly and to do their own homework and do what they need to do and vote their conscience. That's important to have a council that's willing to do that. I commend our council for standing up for what they believe. I think that it does take, you need to take note on how the vote came and went there. I think it's important, but I think what is even more important is a lot of people don't understand and know what I did and how I got to my conclusion. I interviewed people, I talked to people, I brought people from the LGBT community into my office. I went out and visited with them. I got to know what their thought on the ordinance was and what their opinion was. And it would be a surprise to most of you, but most of them did not like the ordinance as it was written the first time. A lot of them don't like the ordinance as it is now. The problem was they said, and they said it before, and I don't know if they'll admit to it in public or not, but what they told me was, you took us, you pushed us to the front of the class, now we have no choice. To discriminate against anybody is absolutely wrong. I've seen it, I've lived it in my own life, I've experienced it, and it's not something that we should ever tolerate in Pocatello.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carter?
Well, thank you for mentioning that, Brian, since I have charges against you going to be filed and more going to be filed about my rights in violation of it. Those many of you know or have been at things where these rights have been violated in public towards me or the people I represent. Actually, one time City Council, I laid out the 30-something chairs of cases I know here. It's not just an issue of whether we have a dress on or we have slacks, and we may be of a different genre or gender. We're talking about people's rights. Our rights are not on the books in Pocatello. I met with the chief of police, and he saw the ordinances. That's the only thing I got to deal with is what this ordinance was. I don't have to deal with anybody else's rights. We always say, oh, our rights are backed up. Yeah, try getting the feds here. Even try getting Boise here to back your rights. Our rights need to be on the books here, and that's our effort in a public initiative to put them on our books here, enforceable by the people of the community as well, not just by our agencies or our police force or the mayor. This is not a place for a mayor or even a city council to determine our rights. Our rights were established a long time ago. They're inalienable for the most part. They're entitlements. They're something that shouldn't be challenged, whether it's free speech or painting on an art thing downtown. You know, expression is our rights, and it's people who keep trying to block and interfere with that. So I hope you will join us in this effort, community-wide.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Shepherd.
That's one of my platforms, the equality and freedoms of people. We are all equal, end of story. White, black, gay, straight. Day in, day out, we're equals. If, as mayor, they want to revise this, I'm more prone to it. I'll definitely listen. If they want to leave it as is, that's fine too. But back to equality. We all deserve it and demand it. So I'd rather hear the rebuttals now.
Mr. Chase, 30 seconds if you'd like. Rebuttal.
Well, maybe a statement. I don't know if it's a rebuttal. You know, in Pocatello, you know, we are a unique community in the fact that the way we were founded. This was a railroad town. People that settled Pocatello came from Greece, they came from Italy, they came from Africa, they came from China, they came from all over the world. And yet we had our differences in this community, and we always found a way to unite and work through them. The same thing with the ordinance that we're discussing here right now. We need to work together and appreciate everybody's rights to have those inalienable rights that Carter mentioned to us. We're guaranteed that. Freedom of religion, freedom of free speech. Those are important things for us, and as mayor, I'll always defend those things and understand that we have differences in Pocatello, but we can succeed with those differences.
Thank you very much. Mr. Blatt, if you'd like, 30.
I would love it. I mentioned, you know, I've personally experienced discrimination, and nobody should ever be discriminated against. I want to reiterate that. Nobody, no matter what the basis is, should be discriminated against. It does not matter who you are, what you believe. You should not be discriminated against. I do support the idea of a non-discrimination ordinance. Unfortunately, I don't think this ordinance covered all people. I think that it needs to cover everybody, and it just didn't.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carter?
Well, thank you, Brian, because it took you about a year before you apologized to the city that I am a citizen of Pocatello and that my rights should be upheld and I should not be harassed by other people on the council, the police, the sheriff's department, the railroad, the school district. You know, it took a while, huh, Brian? But, you know, glad we're getting there, because collaboration, cooperation is the name of the game that which we play. The organizations I came here, I'm an organizer. When I get here is to organize people to rise up, so to speak.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Shepherd?
I'm good to go.
Okay, thank you.